I'm alive. Welcome.
Are we here?
We are. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to 4020 Live. It is the 31st of March. This is it. End of the month. Happy birthday, Rugby League. We've got cakes for it. Rugby League's 29th birthday.
Although it isn't, because it rules out the other 101.
Yeah. When Wakefield won stuff. So now we've only won the 1895 Cup now, so that's a bit disappointing, isn't it? And, yeah. But surely, I know, start the programme properly in a minute. Surely if Rugby League was born on the 29th of August 1895 when a load of men in hats sat around a table at a hotel which doesn't open anymore. Not the first games, which were a week later.
Mm.
I mean, they got the fixture list out quickly, didn't
They did.
On the,
Nobody complained about them either.
No,
there were no loop fixtures.
The Northern Rugby Football Union Abacus got it sorted.
Didn't have to go to Canada
No.
and get the same teams playing each other every other week.
Or France. And so the birthday was when they did the meeting, which who was it? Didn't turn up. Morley didn't turn up.
Morley, yes.
Morley.
Kidnapped on the way there.
Yeah, by people from Twickenham. But surely Super League's birthday should not be Sheffield Paris, which as we know was game one, but whenever Mal Meninga and Maurice Lindsay held up the big bit of cardboard saying Super League with their hats on. That should be the birthday. But I don't know. Paul likes the music at the start. That's only because it's free. Otherwise we'd use proper music. But non-copyright music can't get in trouble for. Welcome to 4020 Live. On the YouTube, rugbyleague.com, on the podcast if you're listening to later, live from North Leeds where it's light because it is British summertime. Summer rugby is here. What's happened this week?
Well, I think more importantly, who'll be with us next week?
Who will be with us next week?
I mean, we can't really break this story.
We might have a new guest.
ahead of the official press release, but somebody who we value very much on this podcast, who we felt may not be with us, may well be with us, and all will be revealed.
Who's brought cakes in for you, Phil? By the way,
a very kind person called James Hogg.
Thank you. Oh, the author.
Yes, the ghostwriter. Par excellence.
It's been another week. We'll start with the news this week. I know we've done because the news this week isn't as heavy and political as it has been.
Well, you say that.
Well, I say that, and we will have another guest later in the week, hopefully. So
the formal news.
The formal news. Yes.
Is news.
News.
What's bubbling underneath that isn't yet news
Bubble.
is still bubbling underneath. As the 15th model of how the NRL will buy into Super League emerges.
I'm trying to work out how we could become. Can we invade Greenland? Can we do that instead? Do Greenland have? I know I keep saying this. Steve, get some Greenland Rugby League shirts out there.
They're playing in Iceland.
So that's close enough, isn't it? Denmark. Does Denmark have a team? Must do. Sure.
It's gone a bit quiet.
I mean, you would know. I mean, do you have to put together European rankings? Do you have to
I don't do the rankings. My job is merely to promote what teams and domestic competitions in the European auspices. He said, knowing that there was one coming out about Ghana in the morning, which isn't Europe.
No, but I was trying to explain this on Saturday when we were doing the watch along. Europe it's quite a bigger place than you think in rugby league terms.
Yes,
it's all of it.
It covers 3 confederations. I don't know how we got onto that. But no, yes, there's still a lot of speculation and talk about why has there been a change of structure at the RFL. What is it that it's going to tap into? Who is going to be included and who isn't? Because now apparent today's story is nobody likes the French.
Well,
I mean, just on that.
Yes, the French.
It's safe to say that some of the people in this new leadership group would not be worried if French teams were not in their competition. Right. I don't understand that for 2 reasons. One is, as of now, all of the French teams, both of them in fact, not all of them, are paying all the expenses for sides going to them.
It's nice of them, isn't it?
So why would teams object to having a French team in it if it's not costing them anything to go? The other
away fans, Phil, because they don't get away fans when they come to England.
The other, let's not get onto which clubs take away fans and which don't. The other thing is, it was also announced today at the same time as the rumours built about potentially clubs voting on not having French teams in, that the highest ranked French team, the Dragons of Catalonia, have now agreed a €15 million revamp of their stadium. So again, why would they be pushing for that if they felt they weren't going to be in the competition?
And possibly kicking out Welsh team. In the men's thing, there's only one.
What have North Wales done to deserve that?
It's not there.
Or is it that they want Welsh teams? How do we go about getting them?
They're going to kick out Cornwall because it's too far for everyone to go. Because it's,
I think when we talk about the results, we possibly should have an adjunct about the value of Cornwall.
Chris says, hope Phil's got the excuses ready for last Friday's defeat. Referee. So I read all the things, all the reports from the game.
No excuses. I have to say, and we're getting into it a bit early, it was a fantastic game.
Phil says, many happy returns for your birthday too, Phil. You and the Super League, both 29 years old.
Well, they were a couple of days before me.
Mark says about Innis Senior. Did you watch the Castleford Hull game? Was I at work for that? I was at work.
Thursday night.
Should he have got a 2-game ban? When that was a perfect tackle, says Mark. How do the match review panel decide that? I've watched it a dozen times and seen no head contact.
It may well be that is a question for somebody who used to be a former referee, who may well be with us again next week.
I'll get the shirt ready for
him.
Just in case.
The only thing I saw was it appeared to be, and again, I'm only interpreting what I saw on a television screen. Innis Senior remained upright, takes responsibility for invading the space of the head of the opponent under the ruling on head contact. His shoulder makes contact with the head of the ball carrier. That is a sin binning under the current laws. Now, whether that's worth a 2-game ban under the new disciplinary point system,
yes.
Whether it's that incident or other points that he's accrued along the way, I thought Barry McDermott's explanation of it was right. He didn't particularly agree with it, but he understood it, and he also again acknowledged that a yellow card in the current environment probably was correct.
Surely that Gillaroos player should have got like a 10-game ban for going headfirst into Vicky Whitfield in Vegas. Phil says, you have to ask Phil to name the 7 Rugby League players from 1993. Unfortunately, I've spoiled it because I've told him about them. The Best of British Men from 1993, a book.
Yes, we mentioned that just before.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But, I mean, we'll be speaking to one of them tomorrow, so I don't think I can ask it. Can you remember being in a book from 1993? But
no.
Depends on how much time we've got with him. So,
Ashes, all being well, we're going to the women's launch tomorrow.
If I'm allowed in, because I don't know if I'll be allowed into league now. Because he doesn't own it, does it? It's owned by the council.
And I don't think that it's his event, so you should be all right. You could hide in Morrison's.
Yeah. Just send the people over to speak to them. We'll do it outside.
Do it live,
like the Rugby League review from the 30s or the 40s or whatever, where Thor the reporter had to pay to go into a match.
Maybe we'll do it like the old Radio 1 Road show. We'll do it outside the ground.
I'll wear shorts like Mike Reid and get a tennis bat. I went to the Radio 1 Road show in, it must have been 1990 at the Knavesmire in York, because obviously as a kid obsessed with radio, this is great. But we had a French exchange student staying over with us. What they must have made about the Radio 1 Road show, I've got no idea.
I've been, but I can't mention who the disc jockey
is. Which doesn't narrow it down.
It was earlier than you. I think it was in Blackpool.
Oh, that'll be nice. At least there's plenty to do in Blackpool. Gary says the amount of time the video referees are taking is a joke. The RFL needs to sort it out, killing the game from Gary the Viking. Was there a really long one this weekend? I think it's because I was watching the Catalan Saints game on mute for the people who are watching with us on YouTube. And there was a point where you just thought, this is going on and on and on.
I think the unintended consequence of the captain's challenge is, A, we haven't yet worked out what we should be challenging.
Not knock-ons.
And B, it's taking too long to assess that challenge compared to similar in Australia where it's like 2 looks, it's successful, it's not. We're forensically examining the captain's challenge and that probably needs to... I mean, when a ball is reefed out, it's like, do we have to see it from 15 different camera angles?
Praise for Liam Moore, who I'm sure gave a try yesterday after about 10 seconds, just said, yes, Dean, that's a try. And well done to Chris Kendall as well for nearly catching Jay Field, who signed a new contract.
He has.
I wish Sky would stop saying we've got some transfer news and it's someone re-signing a deal, because that's not they're not moving anywhere, staying in the same place.
So on transfers, good news that he's staying. Great for the competition.
Yes.
Will Price
Will
is back.
Price is back.
Great signing from Hull, I think. Hull have realised they've got some really... Well, they haven't realised, they know. They don't need me to tell them. They've got some really, really talented young players coming through and a lot of people towards the ageing end of their careers, and they need to start filling that gap, and they're doing a brilliant job with getting Willing, I think, with his just the training that he's had in the NRL, the experiences that he's had playing that he is going to come back a better player than he left, and he was pretty good when he left. So that is a great signing for Hull.
I mean, you've answered Dominic's question there because he says, how do you think he'll go in Super League? And,
I think it'll be brilliant.
And it does appear from a lot of Newcastle fans online that they didn't want to see him go. So, you know,
and I think the fact that he's going back to a club that his dad played for, the whole Jordan Abdul thing makes more sense now that they've actually got a replacement for him. So yeah, I think that is a really good. The fact he's effective, he can join them immediately. The transfer's effective now. That's a great bit of business from Hull.
How did they fit him in straight away? You know, they've got a winning team. They've got second in Super League.
Isn't Cade Cust out?
Oh, he's out there
because of that head injury.
Yeah.
So I suspect he could come straight, and I think that would be a bit of a risk. But
and they've got the shirt number 3, haven't they? Or
yes,
have they?
Yes, right, number 6. So I think that is a really, really good signing.
When will forward passes that lead to tries be looked at by video referees? Well, there is no. When they look at knock-ons, I'm not sure.
It's the camera angle, isn't it? It distorts a forward pass.
Because Leeds scored from a forward pass.
Blatantly forward.
Blatantly forward.
Although, again, at the time, in normal speed in the ground, depending on where you were sitting, it looked like a great no-look pass. And then you see it on the screen, you go, it's a great no-look pass, but it is about 3 yards forward.
So the coup still, it's gone quiet a bit.
Well,
although we're all amused by Kevin Nicholas getting fined by the RFL for abusing match officials when he being a thoroughbred rugby league person, you think it's not very good, is it? It's like those horses that refuse to race. You know,
well, the RFL board, I'm told, was due to meet for the first time tomorrow.
Yes, because it's April Fool's Day and everyone's going ha 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 ha.
It's not now meeting because I don't think we have yet announced who now is on the RFL board, which might not have been some of the people that were announced initially.
Don't change your LinkedIn page yet.
So there's a clubs meeting instead.
Is that the one that was supposed to have a couple of weeks ago and then didn't because they decided to?
Yeah,
kick,
this is
the
come along and tell us what you want alongside what we're telling you you're having.
Yeah. How's the strategic review, which of course hasn't been completed? No.
There's no fait accompli in the strategic review. No. But there's a meeting tomorrow to discuss some of the things that are going to be in the strategic
kicking
review.
Out the French, Welsh, getting more money from TV companies that exist. What are we doing about Salford? What are we doing about Salford this week?
Well, who's going to be playing for Salford this week? Will they lose another 2 players? Likelihood, yes, one of them for sure.
Who's probably going to a club in West Yorkshire? Because that narrows it down to 4, but in reality...
Well, I suspect that Hull signing Will Price, even though they have space on the salary cap, probably means they were interested in Callum Watkins. I'm not sure it'll be that much of a priority now. I think the battle probably will be if he leaves. He hasn't said he's going to leave yet. Between one of his former clubs and one that can win away but not at home.
Some Wakefield fans don't want him because I don't know. Dominic says sorry to go circle back to Price. There's no format to this programme.
We don't have a running order.
Does he make the England squad? Well, here we are now, aren't we? Because the Ashes are coming. There's no point talking about Salford because nothing's happening at Salford. The people buying the club...
The scandal's getting worse. And now what we're being told by Paul Rowley, who again gave a really credible interview.
Yeah.
Hold on to that Price thought. He's expecting the decisions to all be made and sorted and agreed by mid-April. So he's effectively bought
kicking the can down
2 or 3 more weeks of this interminable situation, especially if you're a player or a staff member or a fan. So it's clearly even he's bringing it to a head, saying, I've given the benefit of the doubt. I knew it would be a rocky road. I expect that by mid to end of April this will be sorted. Well, if it isn't, then I genuinely don't know where they go, and I would imagine that even Paul might consider his position because he's an honourable man being forced to do dishonourable things at the moment.
It's like Saturday's the new tax year, isn't it? So I could do my taxes for the last year on Saturday, or could do them the week after, or leave them until January. To kick it down the road. Keep kicking it down the road, even though I could do it straight away, but I'm not going to do it because I'm lazy.
Will Price. Will
no, first.
That's just my attention span is.
Because we're on Salford. I know, we'll leave it till we talk about the game. It's all right. Will Price, will he get an England squad? Because now, and I apologise on behalf of the Rugby League media to all the people watching and listening to this programme, but for the next however many months, when's October? 6 months, it's going to be his England team I think Shaun Wane should pick today. And for every week it's going to be, this is the team Shaun Wane should pick.
The top 5 players who Shaun Wane
why Jake Connor should play for England next week. Why Jake Connor shouldn't play for that kind of thing.
What Shaun Wane said on his press conference after it was formally confirmed was he wants 10 people in every position to select from, which I think, it's a wishful thing.
We might get in the squad at this rate.
But his argument is that's what Australia have. When it comes to selection, they have probably 10 people in it, particularly the halves. Because, whilst he's saying we've got 4 good halves, Mikey Lewis might be playing well at the moment, you want pressure on everybody.
Yeah.
So Will Price will be looked at, but I suspect the bulk of the England squad that we see will, at least half of it will come from the NRL. And I think he's already got some people in his squad who are earmarked to be playing because they've played in the previous 2 series and they know what he wants, and we haven't got any warm-up games and we might have some camps. So I think he will go with the people that understand exactly what he's asking of them. Now, whether Will has got sufficient time to put his name in the frame, become one of those 10 half-backs.
But he can also cover full-back as well, can't he? So he's got that, and he's not,
Yeah.
Could be one of those 10.
I think when it was finally announced, when we saw that there was a load of interest in ticket, the ticket sales have been great. When various media outlets who don't cover rugby league, including Stephen Jones of the Sunday Times, was writing about. He's not a fan of rugby league. No. Was writing about how great it was at the Ashes. It got that cut through that you would hope. The Times itself. Sunday Times were saying one of the big events coming up. Make sure you get a ticket. We didn't have this
in January, so it could be in all the calendars, couldn't it?
But I think the feel good was great. So when they finally had the press conferences to announce it, which were online with Sean and Rugby League Commercial, I think the feeling was that it gives a boost to the remainder of the Super League season. That the Ashes is something that you do look at and think, is he going to be good enough to play? Is Mikey Lewis playing?
So even if you're at Huddersfield and you're bottom,
exactly.
You could say Tom Burgess could that kind of thing.
So I think it will boost the sport. I think the fans have really taken. Lots of people online today saying they've got bundles of 14 tickets. I think it was worked out that if you were to sell out all 3 grounds, it's about 160,000 tickets, but 3,000 people registered for the priority window who could all buy 14 tickets. It's like there is demand. The RFL said they expect Headingley to sell out. Clearly, it's the fewest capacity, and that would push people then to buy tickets at the other 2. They expect Everton to be close to selling out because of its novelty value.
Yep.
And Wembley, they won't open the top tier to start with, but there is the option to do that if the tickets sell really well. If they don't open the top tier, it's still 60,000. So really, really positive. I think the only downside is that clearly there just are the 3 test matches. We all hope that there might be enough players coming over to play some midweek games to play the French. I think there is going to be something with the French, but it won't be a test match. I think it'll be along the lines of commemorating the fallen of world wars at Australian or Anzac cemeteries, which has never been done before, and the Aussies are really keen to meet up with the French and be hosted by them, and maybe even have some touch or tag with them.
Play a game. They're going to win anyway.
It's the Players Association. The collective bargaining agreement was set, and it was a certain number of games.
Where's our Rugby League Players Association sorting out the Salford mess? It is exciting, and again, the great news is we've got into Everton before the other lot because like we did with Spurs, we were there before they were. So
Yeah.
I know it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but it's a peeing competition at the end of the day. So
I saw some people saying we should have gone to Spurs or Arsenal instead of Wembley, and on the other side of that same argument is we're not ambitious enough with the grounds that we pick. So we picked the biggest ground, and still some people aren't satisfied.
I know the Headingley people will say, well, why not Ellen Road? Why? Ellen Road's... I know it's bigger, but it's not a great stadium to sit on.
There's two problems with Ellen Road. One is they don't know what division Leeds United will be in.
Yeah.
So it's hard to book...
Judging by the fans, they'll be in the conference next year.
It's hard to book the ground now. And if they do get promoted, it's due to be redeveloped. So it might not have been available in November anyway. And there was some feedback sent to the RFL about people not enjoying Magic Weekend there. So why would you put a test match? I think their rationale behind the three grounds that they've chosen to get a maximum amount of ticket sales, and the realisation that if it is already 2-0, but you've sold out the venue where the third test is and you're going to get a great atmosphere there anyway, that's actually quite sensible. So I think they're brilliant choices.
Why aren't we playing the French? Why aren't we playing the French? Why are we having a mid-season... We're from to the Roses game. Someone asked me that on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and I said, I think that was ruled out pretty much as soon as it was mentioned at the end of last year. But we've just forgotten about it because it was a daft idea in the first place.
I think we knew that we weren't getting a mid-season international when the fixtures came out, which we thought, it's a bit short-sighted. But the knock-on effect of that has been, I think the French have taken umbrage that they're not playing us, either in the men's or the women's, and that might have a knock-on effect with the wheelchair, which is a shame.
Which is a game people want to see.
Well, it's the best two teams in the world, isn't it? So,
when are the women playing next? Well, are they disbanded now after the Australian after Vegas? There's no.
Should we go to the launch?
Women's Rugby League is finished now. So it's exciting because the Ashes, and forget about this. Oh, why is it in Great Britain? It's a complete nonsense argument because it doesn't matter. The team's going to be English anyway, and Victor Radley's English.
It's part funded by Sport England. So.
If you want to buy some kit, I'll sell this fantastic shell suit top because.
That from late
92, I think.
Is that the World Cup?
Might be.
It's the World Cup.
We're not releasing a new kit for it either. We're going with the same kit as last year.
Are we?
Yeah, well, it says test kit 24-25 on the adverts from Oxen. So if you bought your shirts last year, well done. You can wear them again this year. Forget about who will play for England, says Paul. Until around September, who knows what form or injuries will be like over the season. Won't pick anyone new, says LG. And you're right. All I'm saying is people will write articles now for the next 6 months saying here's who should play.
But I just think it'll be interesting. It'll add an extra layer of interest between now and the Test series to be looking at potential England candidates saying, are they in form, or have they played their way out of? And it's great. It's
exciting.
It adds to the allure of an Ashes series.
Hopefully the Australians are as excited as well.
They are.
Oh, they are. That's good.
Well, Mal's giddy.
We're all looking forward to seeing it. Everyone likes seeing Mal Meninga because he's such a presence. Glad we don't have to play against him. RFL, says Gav, employing the Toronto playbook to push the French teams out. We'll be back to a 50p day rover down the M62 before you know it. Buses have gone up, Gav.
The interesting thing about that comment, which is perfectly valid, is what if the Australians do want French teams? And the Australians do at some stage want to invest in whatever it is they want to invest in. Are we actually inviting the Australians?
Have you seen Steve's tweets today? He's suggesting that they could play a whole competition. Send some teams. I guess if we have the split like they had in Australia, we can bring back Springfield Borough. And I don't know what we'll call Leeds, but
we're into this realm of speculation and scuttlebutt, of which there's a lot about at the moment. Some of it from Australia, some of it more informed than others. But one of the potential scenarios, bearing in mind that we don't know what the NRL want to invest in or to what amount or what level of control and how much of it is still going to be the clubs here determining their competition and the NRL be investors as opposed to the NRL coming in and laying waste to whatever the clubs want, which wouldn't make sense with what we're doing at the moment, is you can make a case and I'm not saying this is right or this is wrong, that a 10-team competition in England or the UK and a 10-team competition in France coming together to form semi-finals.
Yes.
So 2 conferences of 10, which is what the NRL are actually going to.
Yeah.
That would give you 4 conferences across the 2 hemispheres. The winners of each could play in a World Club Challenge. So all of these things are speculation. We're throwing them into the pot, but the fact that the French elite competition, which has been renamed and seems more competitive, you could find another 8 teams from that to go in with Catalan and Toulouse, in the knowledge that the winners of that tournament play in the semi-finals, or the top 2.
Do you see how much FIFA are giving the winners of their new Club World Cup?
Which I'm told not many players want to play.
No, billions of pounds.
That's why they'll play in it.
But they've scheduled it so some players' contracts will run out midway through the competition. So, as much as we criticise the RFL, let's laugh at FIFA, although they've got lots of money.
Well, the RFU had a vote of no confidence.
When's Bill Sweeney coming in? Get him on the board. He could be our new chief. He could be our new chairman, not chief executive. We got one.
He won his.
He did.
Vote of no
Bill
confidence.
Beaumont was on his side,
so he can stay until the next coup.
NRL Europe doesn't necessarily have to include Super League, says Gav. It could include the Mad Squirrels of wherever it was, and Valencia Hurricanes, Lokomotiv Moscow.
I think they know who and what they want. And one of the other proposed scenarios, if you believe any of this, it's all Fantasy Island stuff, is that one of the things that you've got to look at what everyone would need out of an association. Yes. So what do the NRL need at the moment? They need an enhanced broadcasting deal. How are they going to get that? Probably not too much more than they currently get, which is a very good deal for what they're already doing in the Southern Hemisphere. So they can hive off the state of origin and put that to the highest bidder or whatever. But Foxtel, one of the coverers of Rugby League, have been bought by DAZN.
How could DAZN? They're like billions in debt. How can they afford it?
But then, if you're going to renegotiate a broadcast deal, and you can go to DAZN and say, we actually now have an extra property in Europe that you're not currently involved in, you may want to bid lots and lots more. And they go, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then Sky go, well, hang on a minute, that's our competition. We'd like to bid a little bit more. You can see it working for global broadcasting deals.
It's all going mad. The world's smaller than it ever has been. And also fractured. Tim says we should take this tomorrow and ask Dennis Betts to wear it. That's a good point, Tim.
And sign it.
I will put that in my bag and I'll take it with us tomorrow.
Walk in with it on, see if he...
See if, I might get set on fire, that's the worry about it.
Don't move too quickly in it.
All he says, I won't say that. Do you know any more information about London? Are we still in the... They're not like Salford, where we're waiting for something to happen because it needs to happen. London, it can kind of...
I think there are things happening.
Percolate.
I think there is going to be, in mid-April, some confirmation of what is happening. I think the speed of progress maybe isn't as quick as some of the plans that they have, but I think they will be in a position to announce something mid-April. Some of which has been hinted at.
That will it. Will it be hinted in the next one as well? Or?
No, I think we'll have something firm to talk about.
A couple of weeks. Looks like London will get some real backing. Maybe force a 14-team Super League, says Paul.
And that's one of the other possibilities. Although, as most people have said, are there sufficient players to populate a 14-team Super League and keep the quality high?
Well, yes, quite. Andy says there's 50,000 Australians living around London. Wembley will be okay. We've got to market it to them.
Yeah,
we've got to market it to them. They still have that Australian newspaper in London. I don't know.
But that one of the reasons Matt Adamson is here, and he is already here, is to market the idea of London Broncos to expat Aussies and Kiwis. And you would think that if the game was sensible to say we've got somebody down there who's meeting all these people and acting as an ambassador, we'd quite like to get him involved selling tickets for the test.
They're not going to change the name, are they? They're going to be London Broncos.
I think they'll undergo. This is pure speculation. Yes, yeah. I think they will undergo an exercise that Leeds did when they were Loiners, that saw them become Rhinos. So I wouldn't be surprised if an announcement would be, we are undergoing a period of rebranding and consultations, and then there's something else.
Like when Leeds United changed their badge and then everyone moaned about it, so they changed it back. Steve Mascode says, I think you'll find the NRL are going through the front door with Super League Europe currently. They want a controlling interest. If Super League Europe does not agree, the question is whether they go away or go to Plan B.
I don't think they'll go away.
What's all this front door machination? It's always backdoor, backroom politics. We don't want any of this.
No, it's tanks on the front lawn.
Tanks. Need some tanks on here. It's like during the first Gulf War when Peter Snow on Newsnight had his tanks he would push around in sand, because that's how you do serious news.
I think, again, Steve is incredibly well informed in all of this, particularly of what's happening in Australia. But again, some of the changes that we're making at board level would not suit the Aussies, and I think we know that, so that's got to play out. We've got to see what happens in 3 months when the interim government supposedly hands over to a new one with a recommendation that will be game-wide agreed. What does our governance look like, and can the Aussies deal with those people?
Not as good as Papua New Guinea, according to Troy Grant. Hull Cow signed someone from Papua New Guinea for their academy, because I saw it on a Papua New Guinean news website.
Again, that's an agreement that was set up quite a while ago. This is the first graduate, and it's brilliant.
It's exciting. Today, apparently, it was South Wales, the 1996 version, versus Hull Kingston Rovers in whatever division they were in, and it was Stanley Jean's debut.
Wow.
So, and he was 40 odd at the time, so he's done well. Is he younger than you or older than you, do you reckon?
I think officially younger. If we saw his passport, probably older.
There's been an exciting transition in Keighley where their caretaker coach has transitioned into a new coach, which is Alan Kilshaw, as hinted by you last week on this programme.
That's come as a surprise. Well, they need him.
They need something, don't they? Deary me, they're not having a good time at the moment. But he's there. Look, stood on the pitch, arms folded like this.
Good luck to him.
Going, I am here.
I've served my ban. I am here.
Speaking of bans, your man got banned for his tweets, and we found out it was something from last year. So all that stuff about including stuff from when he was 16,
right? But
it was also stuff from last year as well. So the statements pretty much trying to pass the blame off on a long time ago. The message goes out the same one as last week. Just don't bother. Just don't bother.
A year is a long time.
There's no point saying things that you don't need to say, he says, doing a podcast. I think that's all the comments for the moment. I'm trying to think of anything else that's going on in the news-wise things. I think it's been fairly quiet, hasn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of, like, we haven't had another coup this week.
No. Well, we haven't had the press release yet about the coup within the coup. No.
I can't keep up with all these coups. Why so many coups? It's like a pigeon
because
rally.
If there is, that's a very good analogy. If there is new money coming into the sport, there is jockeying for position as to who controls that new money, or indeed gets it.
If only I'd have written something like that in my column. You have to come up with the things like that. So Super League started on Thursday with Castleford 14, Hull FC 24. Which was a game of rugby league that existed. I was at work, so I didn't have full attention on this one, but I'm assuming I didn't necessarily miss too much. But Hull, a bit like we'll say about Hull KR later, they just won a game. They did what they had to do.
Yeah,
and SAS is still superb.
And he's another one who signed a new long-term contract, which is great for the competition. He has been the form prop. Well, him and Mike McMeekin probably the form prop forwards in the first 6 weeks. So the fact that he has recommitted to staying here till 2029, when NRL clubs would have looked at him and maybe thought, he was too good. The problem for me with Cass is that Danny Maguire's impatience is showing, but there's not a lot he can do about it.
No.
And I got when he said SASA scored his early try, the defence on the line was like under 10s. I don't know how they're going to improve in the short to medium term if they have no other access to players. They bought Brad Singleton in. That's going to help it a little bit because he's an experienced prop, but they need 3 or 4 more players, and they haven't got the wherewithal to go out and get them. So yeah, they scored most of their points late on in the game, which also annoyed Danny because he wanted them to show that fight earlier. Hull were not spectacular, but they didn't need to be. No. And at this time of the year, keep him winning. I mean, second in the league.
Hull count. Is it 1985? What's going on?
Brilliant.
What's going on?
I can't follow. They took nearly 2,000 fans to. Nobody was calling it Menderhose anymore. Well, have they been dropped? Is it just the jungle?
I don't know.
So Cass will need every ounce of their new media manager. Good luck, Mez.
I was thinking about this the other day. How bizarre is it that obviously it was Weldon Road forever, and they changed the name because of a sponsorship deal with a website that's long gone, and it's still the jungle. It just still is, as opposed to when Hilton Park was renamed the Coliseum for a bit, and no one called it that. No. But it is, no one calls it Weldon Road anymore. It's the jungle.
And Arena 84.
Arena 84. Just on another thing, here's Paul. The Leeds vote to call the club Rhinos, was that a sign of shenanigans there? I think he's trying to claim there may have been shenanigans in the vote tallying.
The official story goes that it was put to the local evening newspaper.
Oh, we can't trust them.
And the votes were tallied, and the public of Leeds, out of nowhere, wanted a Rhino. The truth, I think, is more along the lines of most of the people that voted wanted a loiner. But because you couldn't have a badge to illustrate a loiner, it was a Rhino.
Still up with Wakefield having a giant battleship wandering.
The words fate and accompli spring to mind.
So, Paul, I think you confirmed that. In the ground, says another Paul, you could feel towards the back end of the game as the players understandably had the Challenge Cup game in mind. Cass never gave up in the game, just lacking confidence and skills in key areas.
Yeah.
And if you've won the game, and you know you've won, you can... I know people will say, well, it's not good because you might get injured because you're not concentrating, but if you've won, you've won.
If you've got a game as big as Hull have got this weekend, then you've every right, when you know you've already won, to either withdraw some of your top players or step back and think your job is done slightly early.
What do Cass do on their week off? Because this is another week off for them. But obviously,
I don't know.
As you say, they almost need more players or better players. It's like saying, well, we need better referees, but where do you get them from? They don't exist. Yes, there might be players at Salford who've been linked with a move to Cass, but they get involved money, which isn't necessarily there because this takeover's still dragging on there as well.
And that is the most important thing for Cass. At what point does Martin Jepson finally confirm that he has bought the controlling interest in the club and he's got additional investment alongside him? I can see Chris Atkin playing for Castleford if he is one of the players that is the next to leave. So I'm not advocating any player should leave Salford. It's entirely down to their personal circumstances, and if they feel that they can get a more secure offer of employment, they should absolutely take it. But Atkin, I think, was at Hull KO when Danny Maguire was there, so he'd know him, he'd know what he could do. It adds some competition in two very important places in the spine. He'd be a good signing for them. Again, it comes down to, have they got the money? Do they need to get their own takeover completed first, which I think was supposed to be around about the 31st of March. So you'd think there's going to be an announcement on that in the not too distant future. The only way Cass can change it, I think, is to get some better players in.
I mean, says Gav, jungle is better than the ass. Yes, Atlantic Solutions Stadium was a misstep from Wakefield, but one of many missteps in their Super League life. But now we're back now and we're different because we are the best team in Super League away from home brackets, because Wakefield beat Leeds 40 points to 14. I tipped Leeds by 2, so I was a bit out on this one.
Thanks to 2 interception tries from Tom Johnson.
He's back. Tom Johnston is back. Mike McMeekin, though, he's the man.
Shouldering the pack.
It's
playing long minutes, leading by example.
I mean, you go into a game and think, well, you might pick up a win there. That's why I tipped Leeds by 2. But to win by 40 points to 14 against a Leeds side who've not been bad, that was some performance.
Well, Lee again now Lee win the first game 1-0, and you think that's an incredible defensive. They've now conceded 70 points in their last 2 games, so clearly something needs tweaking again by Adrian Lamb. And whilst I'm not an advocate of playing the same team over and over again, it certainly does add some intrigue to the cup tie on Friday night. Can Wakefield get their first win at home against the team they've just mullered?
Well, it would be their second win at home, because it's Schrodinger's cat with a piece of toast tied to it which has got butter on it, because Schrodinger's cat lands on its feet, the toast lands but the side down. Wakefield haven't won at home in Super League, but they have won in the cup.
Yes.
Brackets against Gull.
Yeah.
So slight difference. But yeah, I mean,
difficult one to call now,
anything can happen. Lee, the favourites on Friday, and based on what we know from the last couple of years, that's about right. This one result. Look at Lee. Look at Hull and Wigan in the Super League. Wigan demolished them in the cup. Wigan turned them over, so it could be absolutely anything.
And I think weren't Lee made second favourites when the draw, third favourites when the draw was made? So intriguing.
Intriguing it is. Phil says Liam Hood playing really well as well. I think it's difficult to pick anyone out who isn't playing well at Wakefield at the moment. So
Josh Rourke has come in and done a fabulous
with Max
job.
showing out injured, so it's
Mason Leno, who I think, again, there was mixed feelings among Wakefield fans. You'd know that better than I would. He's been really good at the start of this year.
He's, to some people, he's the scapegoat, but he's been okay. So
competition for places. You have Tyson Smoothie is already signed for next year. Does that put pressure on Liam Hood? Liam Hood producing great form this year. It's how it works.
And all these,
which is what Casford don't have.
Yeah, and people will say it's down to the recruitment as well, of bringing players in who no one's ever heard of from the Queensland Cup and the New South Wales Cup, who are doing a job in the pack. And as much as I'd rather see British players everywhere given a chance, not my choice. And if they get cheap players from abroad who are good,
yeah, Hamlin Llewellyn's been looking good.
Who's the new guy they've brought over?
Yes, Caius Fatala.
That's the one. He's a big lad.
He's got long hair.
He has.
I'm only jealous.
He is a unit. I think you're allowed to call him a unit. I think that's allowed. People are impressed with him. We've had many big players over the years who get reputations, but he might get one in the future. I don't know. It could be anything. Another poll. It's the same poll, but a different poll. Any news on if Tom Amoni's returning to Lee or going to Warrington?
I think the fact that he's been made available, or his agent is putting him round rather than maybe made available, he'd be a fabulous signing for either club, to be honest, because he was outstanding last year.
The big thing apparently coming out of Lee versus Wakefield that upset people from Lee is smoke going off when Wakefield scored, because they had things set up at either end, and I think home fans think that should only be for the home team scoring.
Right. But is that the same fans that think there should only be music when the home team scores?
Oh, does it? It's like with the PA announcers do, isn't it? 5-4 Leeds, go by Ryan Hull, and then when it's try for St Helens, go by Chet Wellesby, like that. I don't know why I picked those two out. It's not as if the guy at Leeds does it like that, but it's just...
Pete's great. He'll be looking forward to the international series.
Yeah, just an example. Speaking of Leeds, because I watched Lee Wakefield. Not much else to say. They were just really good. It was good.
Took every chance that was offered to him.
As you say, 2 interceptions from Tom Johnston, and so he's back.
2 tries from Mike Meakin, who's great.
Yeah, Man of Steel. I think I might go early on that one. Not that I've got any...
There's somebody who Sean Wayne should be looking at.
Yeah.
See, we're mentioning that already. And I don't think he would necessarily have been in the frame.
Imagine if Wakefield having 2 players potentially playing against Australia. Well, certainly, it would be difficult unless his form drops off a cliff to see McMeekin not in the squad come the autumn. Johnston, it's a bit difficult because so many wingers out there.
Absolutely. But that's going to keep him on his toes.
It is. Warrington 16, Leeds 14. Josh Warrington cheating in the thing at half time against the Wire Flyer.
Although, to be fair, the Wire Flyer cheated at the end, so it evened itself out.
I was disappointed. I thought it was going to be Don Warrington. But
what, against Josh?
Yeah. I'd have watched that. I love Death in Paradise. It's great. But wanting to win 16-14. You were there. You can tell me all about this because I've not seen it. I've heard about the controversy because there's always controversy, and everyone's upset about Jake Connor or whatever. But Warrington win, which is an important win for them, and Leeds, as we keep saying, they're close to something, but they're not quite there yet.
For the neutral, it must have been a fabulous game. It had everything, full commitment. The difference, as it turned out, was the width of a crossbar. Jake Connor's conversion attempt from the touchline to Ryan Hall's acrobatic try, which he should know better at his age, looked like it was missing by miles, and the wind brought it in, hit the crossbar, bounced out rather than over. It would have been 16-6, and Leeds were in the ascendancy. It came down to a Mark Sneed conversion late on that won it. 3 tries each. A lot to admire on both teams, and a great evening's entertainment.
Is this where we keep saying now for the rest of the season? Why didn't they just sign Mark Sneed in November or whatever? I know that Salford didn't necessarily want to sell him.
That's the thing. And he may not have wanted to leave until the situation at Salford became, for him personally, intolerable. But yeah, he's played 2 games, and he's been arguably the match winner in both of them. So no, I thought the fact that Warrington's first choice 3/4 line was out, and yet the guys they brought in all scored, was fantastic for them. Particularly Aaron Lindop's try was magnificently taken. Defensive commitment on both sides was immense. There was nothing in it. So the kind of game that the competition cries out for, uncertainty of outcome.
Again, it's 2 teams with exciting young backs coming through this
season. So Leeds are getting closer to holding their own with the top teams. So great. Next time they meet, there's a bit of added spice because Matt Duffy doesn't like Jake Connor. Jake Connor, who provided 2 of the Leeds tries, albeit one of them with a gridiron pass. Brilliant. It was great. The atmosphere in the stadium was great. 10,500 people. It was fitting for the 5,000th match of Super League.
5,000 matches. What's your favourite of all? Because what's your favourite of all the 5,000?
The thing is, just by the telescoping of time, you forget all the early ones, don't you?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was good of Mark on the telly to pick Bradford beating. Was it Paris? I think to win the Super League title of all things in '97. I mean, that was good of him to go. I mean, back again, into the archive, make the Sky archivist.
You need to. Are we talking about the greatest game?
Well, I don't know.
To you, or how do you define great? Is it something that you'll remember as a performance, or clearly the great games are the ones that win trophies? Going to Warrington, not Wilderspool. It was the Halliwell Jones last Friday night for the 5,000th game. Took me back to 2011 and the playoff semi-final between Warrington and Leeds, where Rob Burrow was at his absolute finest, and Leeds, coming from 5th, had absolutely no right to be going anywhere near a grand final, and produced arguably their best performance of the season to win in the last minute at Warrington with a Sinfield penalty. That was a sensational game.
Willie Mason scored as many tries in Super League as Andrew Johns. Right. We need to keep saying.
Do we need to reevaluate Willie Mason or downgrade Andrew Johns?
I think we need to downgrade Andrew Johns.
He only played 3 games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was just we keep
the
going
hype
on about,
around the first one.
We keep going on about it, but Martin Afire went to Salford. No, that wasn't good. Sean Edwards going to London.
Terry Mattison's conversion from the touchline to stop Wigan winning the league was another sensational moment when you realise that the axis might be changing.
Phil can't remember last week, never mind years ago. 16th of September 2001, the Willows, Salford, whatever they were called at the time, versus Wakefield Trinity Wildcats, at the end of a season where we'd had points deducted by the bar stewards at the Rugby Football League. All anti-Wakefield, all of them. And I've never known a game like that one.
Was that Gareth Ellis led Wakefield?
No, that would see.
Oh no, that was
that's
early.
2004.
Was that at Salford when?
2004 is when we won at Hull in the playoffs, and he was superb. Now this is when we have to win, and Huddersfield are playing somebody else, and if we win, we stay up.
Right.
And our squad was rubbish because we had no money, but it was Willie Poaching, Brad Davis leading the team around despite being 70 years old. Bobby Goulding was at Salford at this point. Of course, we hadn't paid him the year before, so he had a point to prove.
Yeah. Did he get sin-binned?
He got sent off because Justin Brooker, in the ultimate moment of selflessness on the pitch, got him in a fight, got him sent off, and Wakefield won. And I was on the pitch after that one. That was good. But yeah, that game, that Wakefield Hull game in the playoffs was a particularly good one as well, because and the week after at Wigan, well, we should have won, but it was again referees, Wigan. So yeah, 20 odd years ago. Yeah, there's been no good games since then. Last week, that was the best game. 5,001. Degsy does all these. Why didn't he get them to kick it off early? Just to spoil it. Because it really doesn't matter anyway. The 5,002nd game of Super League was Catalans versus St Helens, 13-14. The wind was dreadful in the south of France. The game wasn't great, but it was tense. And what was impressive was the drop goal kicking at the end because of the wind. Two wonderful chip shots from Johnny Lomax, Sam Tompkins with the one for Catalans, despite only having one leg. And great win for St Helens. Great win for St Helens. Takes a bit. I mean, it doesn't take any pressure off Paul Wellens because people who don't like him. But they've won 4 of their 6 games so far. They're 4th in the table. Absolutely. It was a great win for them.
And having gone 12-0 up early on to be pegged back to 12-all, you thought, yep, this is going to be another one where all of the Saints fans are jumping on the back of Paul Wellens because they couldn't close out again. I only heard this one on the radio and thoroughly enjoyed the commentary and the excitement of not being able to tell who was going to win. It went to the last minute, which is what you want in sport.
Johnny Lomax.
Yep.
Who
really was heavily criticised the week before. 2
really good drop goals in the circumstance to get them just over the bar, and because the camera work from Catalans is
French directed.
Yeah, I mentioned that during the watch along about how it was very reminiscent of when Murray Walker used to slag off the foreign TV directors during the F1 in the 80s or whatever. But really important win for St Helens. They've obviously got a week off this week as well, haven't they? No, they haven't got a week off. What am I talking about?
No, they've got Warrington in the Cup.
They've got Warrington in the Cup on Sunday. And Catalans have got Salford this week on Friday. Where do Catalans go from here? They've got their new stadium, or the stadium improvements coming up.
Well, they could be in the semi-final of the Challenge Cup.
Where's that going to be played?
Well,
London. Play at London Broncos Stadium as they play Wakefield. It's just not clicking for them at the minute, is it? But
no.
But they're only within a point of winning a game.
They're not a million miles away.
Also on Saturday, London beat beat Hunslet 26-6, which I guess on the balance of things is not a bad result for Hunslet because London are a team in Super League last year.
A decent result for London, having conceded 50 against Oldham the week before.
But Doncaster 10 to lose 6.
That was the result that went under the radar. That is just astonishing.
To say where they've to say Toulouse obviously within a whisper of being Super League perhaps if things had gone differently
having
slightly.
Beaten Bradford so convincingly.
And there are little old Doncaster just getting on with things.
Decent. I mean, a lot of very good players in their team, but that is one hell of a result. And
it was streamed, wasn't it? So people could have watched that one on YouTube.
For free? Or?
Yeah. I was a bit rugbyed out after the Saints game, so I didn't watch it, but now I wish I had, because obviously what a superb finish that was.
Full credit to Doncaster. That is the result of the weekend, I think.
Oh, certainly. Certainly is. Elsewhere, I'm looking for something on my phone, which is why let me go back to this. The RFL website's a nightmare. Sunday's games are going to be easy to do in Super League because they both went exactly how you'd have expected. Maybe for Wigan, you've expected to score more points earlier in the game, but they just ground Salford down and won 54-0. I didn't watch this one fully because I watched the other game, but I felt like I didn't need to watch this game because I knew exactly how it's going to pan out, which is the case for both games on Sunday.
Yep, 54 points in each game.
But Wigan, having had their bad run of form, they're now back. So,
well, I think, still
losing 2 games.
Yeah, it's not a hugely bad run of form. Jai Field was back, which is important for them. They now get a week off. It'd be very interesting, if they refresh, allow their squad to go away for a few days and get refreshed. That makes them dangerous when they come back. Salford, we spoken enough about, and I know Phil watches the programme and is an avid Salford fan, and there's not a lot we can say.
No.
Except we feel your pain. We can't feel it in the same way that you do, but we want Salford to be a competitive squad. We want their players to be paid for the effort that they put in. We don't want junior players who aren't ready to be exploited. That is a double-edged sword, because the more junior players they bring in, the more their contracts go up in value, and when you haven't got any money, that's not what you want. There's a couple of star names who, it is alleged, chose not to train and then play, and maybe leaving. It is just a quagmire.
It's a cluster. I'm a bit worried that we're going down this route of lionising the players who are playing, for the sake of the fact that there aren't anyone else to play. I mean, the interesting thing is Salford played players yesterday who admitted were injured. So don't come to me talking about player welfare when players play injured. They shouldn't be playing injured. But they had a reserve game before. I know they do.
Every time. Ryan Hall was asked the other day about his longevity of getting to 500 games, and said, because I've been playing injured. So I don't think any coach would enforce a player playing if it was going to have long-term injury harm. They may well have had the kind of aches, pains and niggles that if you had a big squad you could rest them, but nobody will be forced to play who is not fit to play.
The problem for Salford is they couldn't bring any of their reserves in because they lost by 84 points to Wigan's reserves.
But the part of the problem at Salford that isn't relating solely to what's happening at the moment is they haven't had a reserve grade. They're only just putting that together. So they haven't really got too many players that are of Super League standard in their reserve. They're playing kids that probably, by their own admission, aren't ready. But it's how this and when this comes to a head. There are plans for this takeover that if they can come up with whatever it is they promised, the future could be quite rosy. My worry is what happens for the remainder of this year. Are they uncompetitive? Do we have another London scenario like we had last year? Do they get relegated at the end of this year, in which case are the investors still prepared to pay the kind of money that they say they're committed to if they've got to rebuild the club? There needs to be some form of resolution ASAP, and then if there is, they need to get some players from somewhere. Where's that going to come from?
At least London were competitive last year, which I know because Hull weren't, but still they were.
But London relied on local talent and still only won 3 games.
Well, as Dennis says, the 11 Southern-born or London-produced players in the London squad on Saturday, so that's a positive.
And there would have been 2 more if they hadn't been injured.
We beat the handicappers' predictions. That's almost a win, says Phil. I predicted by 54. I was spot on. If only I'd have had money on it. We shouldn't be in Super League, says Phil as well, continuing. If this was football, we'd be docked points and relegated. If we assume that part of this coup has been the inaction over Salford, because that's what people have claimed it has been, they've done that.
It's a straw that helped break a camel's back. It isn't the only thing.
Nothing has changed.
No, I think the concern would be, and we don't want to spend the rest of the programme again talking about
Salford. No.
Is at what point does there have to be some kind of resolution?
Yeah. They don't get a week off, but Wigan do, which is nice of them. So,
although Wigan would rather be playing.
Well, of course they would, but they get a week off to heal their bones and stuff. 54-0. They were just, from what I've seen again, as I say,
it took them a little bit of time to grow into the game, but when they did, it was the proverbial men against boys. Professional
performance from Wigan. The interesting thing about as soon as it came out, after Salford announced their squad, that 2 players might refuse to play, it would become very easy to work out who those players were, which I'm not sure I'm happy with. I'm not saying this is a fault of journalism or anything. It's just, in the past, I know there have been players who've refused to play for a club, but I can't back that up, and I can't say who they are or why, even though I know it was the case, because whoever told me would have known. So it's a bit hanging out players out to dry. And you're right, if you are being paid late, I know they did get paid, they didn't get paid when they were supposed to do, they got paid within whatever.
If you're players that are coming to the end of your career, the likelihood is that you've got one more chance to get a contract somewhere else. You have to take it. If you're a young buck who's going to be picked up if you go on the market and you've got a lot of your career in front of you, it's a different scenario.
And again, why can the funds be found to pay the players on day A, but we have to wait till day B, C, D for the staff?
Because, well,
that's the thing that gets me.
Yeah.
Because they're all living outside of their job.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the same lives and the same costs and whatever. So I don't like that separate. I understand why there's a separation. I'm not stupid, but I don't like it. But there you go. Well done, Wigan. Oh, they're back. Hull Kingston Rovers beat
ruthless
Huddersfield 50 points to 4. Yeah, exactly. I think we're speaking about this game on Saturday night and saying, I think the handicap was 36 at the time. I said, well, I can see Hull KR scoring 40 odd points. I can't see Huddersfield doing this, covering their bit. And it was exactly that. They're not very good, Huddersfield. And I can't. Hull KR obviously a very good team. I don't want to take anything away from Hull KR. I describe their performance as being in neutral because they didn't have to do much.
If you're not playing to your full potential and you can still score 50 points, you're doing something very right.
Yeah. Artur
Morg makes his debut, makes a big impression. Put again competition for places for later in the season. I think he's probably cup tied, so he wouldn't be eligible for next week anyway. But that's exactly the sort of result you want to be taking into a Hull derby in the third round, in the quarter final of the Challenge Cup. Mikey Lewis, who apparently apologised to his teammates at half time for missing the tackle that saw Huddersfield get their only points, then scores a hat trick. That's how you answer the guys in the changing room.
He's great, isn't he? Because he's got that proper half-back's arrogance about him.
Yeah, but he can back it up. Now he can back it up. Yeah. He hasn't always been able to back it up. He's just been the proverbial cheeky chappy. Now he's got all the skills.
Great pack playing behind as well, which
That's
helps.
The thing.
The backs,
everything's great form.
Everything's working for Hull KR.
Players coming off the bench who add something when they come on the field, which is the art of having a really well balanced deep squad. They do look exceptional at the moment. Huddersfield.
Well, this is the thing. We
It's just a personnel thing. They cannot pick the same players in the same positions every week, and we didn't realise how deep the issue of injuries were when Luke Robinson was saying that the pre-season had been so disrupted. It looks like they've had a really disrupted pre-season. The second halves of virtually every game they've played in, they've been terrible.
Well, they do get a week off to rest this week, but again, when they come back, will anything change? I'm not sure.
But now they've lost Liam Sutcliffe possibly for up to a month, and
I can't remember who they've got after the cup break. I know they've obviously got Leeds on Rivals Week because it's the hilarious third wheel of the Rivals Good Friday, but I'm not sure who they've got next. It might be Wigan or something. It was.
Oh, it's somebody that'll have played in round 2.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw the fixtures come up on the telly at half time. Yes, I'm thinking.
I've seen all
I'm sure I've seen this recently. Yeah. I know.
Well, Castleford play Wakefield at Easter and then play them 2 weeks later at Magic. So
I'll be sat in a bar in Magaluf watching.
Hull and Hull KR play each other in the cup and then 2 weeks later play each other at Easter. So
I'm leading a delegation to get Mallorca into the NRL Europe.
St Helens Warrington will meet 3 times in 6 weeks, and you just go, no, we need scarcity.
This thing, Saints draw Warrington in the cup, and you think, well, that happens all. And Hull have never, not since 86. It's ridiculous.
3 times in their history.
Oh, Huddersfield host Catalans next, says Paul. Thank you, Paul. So, well, that's a big game for both teams then. So,
it is a big game in the context of Super League because we will be a quarter of the way through the season. And you can start making some judgments about whether teams are likely to be playoff contenders or top 4 or struggling for the remainder of the campaign, and the loser of that might be cut adrift.
Tim's asked about Luke Robinson, and we know Huddersfield traditionally they like to get rid of a coach, so it's not a knock on him. It's
no, I think they have to stick with it. They have to.
Oh, Paul saying big crowd expected, but the BBC will probably put that on the red button. I don't know why they chose Wigan Salford yesterday. I have no idea why. I don't understand that. I know I got it wrong when I said they shouldn't have shown Wigan Hull, but that was. And I don't think anyone knew it was on anyway.
They picked the teams in advance before the Salford situation was known.
They could have switched that game because they just took the Sky feed anyway. And we could have had Rod Studd introducing Toronto Wolfpack legend John Wilkin on the BBC instead. When it was on the red button anyway. Well, it was behind the red button because the red button had the women's football on at the time, or the Six Nations. I can't remember. That was Super League.
The games that were close were brilliant. The games that weren't were not quite so brilliant.
But it's nice watching two games on a Sunday afternoon. Just.
I think we are if you were to look at the first 6 rounds overall, and clearly a couple of bludgers in there.
Yeah.
It's been a great start to the season. I'm really enthused by what we're watching at the moment.
Can't wait for the Challenge Cup this week. Although only 2 of the games are on telly, so what we're going to do, I don't know.
Actually, what? Go to the ground?
I can't. I'm working on Friday, so I'm going to have to rely on CFAX.
Thank you, Mr. Schofield.
Oh. Or Flash Scores, it's called now. In the Championship, so Barrow, having won at Bradford last week, lose to York, who'd been out of form, 36-12 at home. So well done to York.
This is the best division for unpredictability.
Bradford Bulls win the Peter Fox Trophy, winning 48-24 at Fev.
Featherstone still without halfbacks.
Halifax 50, Batley 6. So the Kyle Eastman, he'll be the next Huddersfield coach this week when they move into Halifax.
We should talk about Halifax because I don't think they've got enough credit. At the beginning of this season, if you'd have ranked where you think teams are going to finish, you would have put Halifax pretty much near the bottom. You'd have said, they've got all these financial problems. They haven't got a settled squad. They've got a novice coach who don't know where they've picked him from and why. And they are top of the league and unbeaten. It is a phenomenal start to the season. Kyle Eastman probably hasn't got the credit he deserves. I know Sean Long at Oldham certainly has, and Oldham are second in the table.
Got some Oldham news for you breaking in a minute.
Which is brilliant. But what a job Kyle Eastman's done. And
from nowhere as a coach.
Well, they haven't signed a huge amount of new players because they haven't been able to. So he's clearly getting the best out of what he's got. Doesn't mean that they're going to end the season the way they've started it, but what a great story! What a fabulous story!
Super coach Craig. Kyle Eastman. Sheffield 8, Oldham 20. Oldham have just announced the immediate retirement of Craig Kopchak. He's retiring.
All right.
So breaking news there from Oldham.
Well, money in the salary cap for Oldham to spend.
It's like someone from Salford. But yeah, it's all going well for Oldham at the minute. In League One, Cornwall 6, Whitehaven 78. Yeah,
I mean, I know
it's almost like we don't want to say this, but
I know Whitehaven were relegated last year, therefore they are a stronger team. And again, I have absolutely nothing against the people that are doing everything they can to own and run Cornwall. But this looks more like a pin in the map exercise every week.
Especially when the driving force behind the thing told Mr. Perez he's not there anymore.
No.
It's on. I don't want to say it's pointless. That's not what I mean.
Do you think this is on the agenda of the strategic review? What do we mean by
it makes more
expansion?
It makes more sense to kick Cornwall out than Catalans.
Well, are they going to apply the same rationale to Cornwall as they appear to be doing to French?
Well, they're English. Well, they're Colonel or whatever.
And
it's called.
I'm a massive expansionist, but it has to be done right. And this never looked like it was being done right when it was a transfer of a share from Hemel to Ottawa that never happened to Cornwall out of nowhere. And then it's in Penryn, which the big new stadium supposedly being built in Truro, and we were going to have a sustainable League One team, and you just go, what are we doing?
We want it to be successful. We don't.
And a brilliant piece written by Mark Staniforth of PA that was picked up by some of the newspapers about Whitehaven to Cornwall being the longest ever road trip in English Rugby League.
Yeah.
And they won 78-6, and you just think, what are we doing?
Well, we know what Keighley are doing now because they've got a new coach. They lost to Dewsbury though 26-12 yesterday. So they're still without a win.
They were 20-0 down, came back to 2012. And
the Purple Rain Derby, and well done to whoever came up with that. Newcastle 6, Hurricanes 54. So well done to them.
Top of the league.
Yeah, everyone loves their mascot that looks a bit like a parsnip or something. Gull Vikings nearly upsetting Swinton. I think it's fair to say that would be an upset. 30 points to 28 to the Lions.
Yeah, Neil Tashambe on loan.
Yeah.
Scored a hat-trick for Gull.
Another one. He's one of our own.
Well, he started at Leeds Academy.
Yeah. Yeah, but once a Trin, always a Trin, apart from Kevin Proctor and anyone who's done anything bad. Workington 14, Crusaders 16.
Another great result for Crusaders. The Dark Horses.
The Dark Horses. In the women's championship, great news for Cardiff, of course, our team. They beat Castleford 40 points to 16. Hull 12, Swinton Lionesses 38. So they continue their good start to the season.
Swinton this weekend.
So it's not the women's fault this week. Hull KR 26, Sheffield 8, London 40, Featherstone 24. I mean, that's a big result, isn't it, in terms of power shifts and stuff. What else happened in League One?
Well, again, it'd be very... I know we're sort of going round in circles, but then this is what this programme is renowned for. It'd be very interesting to see the potential integration, closer integration of the women's and maybe the wheelchair team in whatever is happening in London under a new regime.
Lee Miners Rangers 6, Fryston Warriors 12, Stanley 30, Workington Town 28. Helpfully it says ladies after Workington Town, even though you're on the women's results. That's useful. Widnes won 60 points to 4 at Halifax, and the mighty Wakefield, 2 wins from 2 now in League One, beat Illingworth 28-16.
I'm still, obviously old-fashioned, but still having an issue with community teams.
It's a mess of a competition, isn't it?
Super League teams, and we have to get to a point where if a Super League team runs a women's team and or wheelchair team, it comes that the fixtures fall in line with each other. Yeah. It doesn't look great. It doesn't matter to people outside of the sport, but I just don't get, Stanley playing Hull FC. Something doesn't seem right.
Swinton Gull, says Paul, was a very enjoyable game to be at. Both sides gave it their all. Tashambe looks a good prospect. So there you go.
He's a big lad.
Well done, Paul, for enjoying that game. I don't know why I said well done like that. Well done to Ian as well, who forgot to put his clock forward. So he's missed the first hour of the programme.
There's always someone.
Don't miss anything.
Except he hasn't.
No, didn't miss anything.
You'd be assuming that there was anything in that first hour that was worth listening to, which clearly there wasn't. Fixtures
coming up this week. Catalan Salford on Friday in the Challenge Cup. I wonder if they'll stream that one, because everyone can do whatever they want these days. Wakefield versus Leeds.
What is the ruling on the Challenge Cup?
Well, I don't think you're supposed to, unless you're the BBC or the Sportsman before this point. But Widnes obviously did for their game against Warrington, so... And nothing happened after that, did they? And what was that? Let me go back to while the BBC website's broken. Here's Gav. I'm just getting tired of all the patience they're getting. This is back to Salford. Talk about the ref. You're bringing the game into disrepute. Don't pay your players and you get all the time in the world to sort yourself. I mean, that's the perspective, isn't it? That is how things look from the outside at the minute.
I don't think, that unless Salford were to go into administration, which would clearly change the situation, the Rugby League are going to pay the players for the remainder of this season, because it's, as we said last week, the economic benefit of that is greater than not being able to fulfil fixtures and Sky claiming money back from their contract.
Not that we're going
to... But it's not right.
The great theory of bringing Bradford in to replace them halfway through the season, then who do we bring in from League One? And what happens to in League One?
You can't do it through a season.
Saturday, Hull FC versus Hull Kingston Rovers in the Men's Challenge Cup. In the Women's, it's Leeds versus Lee. And on Sunday, it's Warrington versus St Helens. In the Women's Cup, it's Warrington Cardiff, which again is being played at the same time as the men. So why can't you just play? I know Cardiff have got to travel, but why don't you play either after or before? Huddersfield versus York, which I seem to remember last year was great for handicap betting, and Wigan versus Barrow. In the 1895 Cup, it's Bradford Sheffield.
1895 Cup, what is it? 160 minutes from Wembley?
There you go. Bradford Sheffield in the John Keir Derby. Featherstone London in the Ickenbutt derby. A very interesting game, isn't it? Because Featherston obviously not had their great start to the season. London, well, they'd love to get to Wembley again. You know?
It would be again. You can imagine, can't you? The Mr. Hetherington, who didn't take Sheffield Eagles to Wembley, who he just sold on, just buys into and takes London to Wembley.
Can walk out with like Matt Ellis did last year. Oldham Barrow and York Widnes, all intriguing games.
But all mean a hell of a lot to those teams to be one step closer to playing at Wembley.
I know they run at the same time as Warrington St Helens, so I'm kind of talking myself into this, but it's a shame none of those are being streamed or not being played at different time, because those are all interesting games where you go.
It's also a shame that one of those isn't on the Sportsman, for example.
Yeah, especially now they can't show the Challenge Cup, the men's one. In League One, Hurricanes Dewsbury, so that's going to be fascinating.
That will be a good game.
Crusaders Cornwall, that'll be a game.
Don't think that'll be close.
Keighley Swinton. Oh,
intriguing.
Oh,
Mr. Kilshaw's first game against his former club.
Rochdale Workington and Whitehaven Newcastle.
Rochdale Workington will be a great game.
Newcastle has the same problem as Cornwall to an extent, although a bit more roots put down and stuff.
You'd think that if Whitehaven got 78 against Cornwall, it won't be pretty against Newcastle.
No, but again, we're not saying we want them to be kicked out or anything.
No, I think Newcastle's a different proposition, and clearly
there's roots in the northeast.
There are some huge issues with rugby union at the moment in Newcastle, and we need a presence, especially with Magic Weekend being there.
Oh yes, Magic Weekend soon, isn't it? That's exciting. Is that everything that's happened this week?
Well, unless our fine correspondents are asking about anything we haven't touched on.
No, I think they've all gone quiet now. So
they've all got to put the tea.
Because it's that time. We've done an hour and 15 minutes.
Have
I
we?
was like, yeah. And I thought this week, without much to talk about on many of the games, and with no coup update really,
that we can talk about.
Yeah. So the problem is when we have our guest back, possible
he'll be talking about
they might not be able to talk about it though.
No, he'll be. And I don't think he'll. I don't think so. Well, we can talk about it on his behalf.
Yeah. When's our go? When do we get to go on the board of the? It's like being the coach of Watford Football Club. You know, we're all going to get a go at some point. We'll get to run the RFL for a week.
And we haven't yet heard what record Mr. Mascall's putting on after we finish.
What do you think it could be?
Last week it was Eric Clapton.
Yeah, for his 80th birthday.
I think he's going to play the Beatles when I'm 64.
Beatles again. But does that fit in with the rock? What do we play?
It fits in with this panel.
See, because at least on other radio stations, I know what kind of music we play. It's the same songs every day because that's how radio works these days. But I'm assuming that Steve's got loads of music to play with. I still get that Greenland kit out. I want a Greenland kit. I've got my Afghanistan kit. Are they? They don't exist, do they?
They don't exist.
They're not in the world ranking.
They're not in the world.
It's not like we're not making these countries up just to. No.
We're struggling at the moment with Latvia, but Greenland.
Oh, what's happening with Latvia?
Nothing. That's why. But Greenland have no history in rugby league.
Well, might not have no future, depending on politics. Has he? Or shall I just shut up?
I don't think we should get into the realms of politics.
No. So we're off to the
we could eat cake.
Yeah, we're off to the women's launch tomorrow, so we'll have some stuff from that after that. Wednesday.
What questions are we asking of who?
I don't know. Dennis, what was he like being in the Best British Men of 1993? And I can ask Craig Richards about stuff.
How did you think England went without you at the helm?
Yeah.
I'm not.
You joke, but
I'm not asking.
You joke, but that's on the list. We should have a special guest on Wednesday lunchtime, which will be out later that day. Fingers crossed, because we don't know if plans may change. That's the thing. And then I'll be in Manchester on Saturday for the inclusion launch. So there'll be some stuff from that. That might be a podcast that goes out middle of next week just to backfill. Because then Monday we'll be talking about the Challenge Cup. And then the build-up to the round of Super League before Rivals round. Leeds Huddersfield, it really gets the juices flowing, doesn't it? I mean, you must think, all those great games, Leeds and Huddersfield over the years.
Catalan Salford.
Who've
just played each other, will be playing each other again on Rivals round.
Apart from the Ryan Hall try, Has there been many memorable Leeds Huddersfield fixtures over the years? On that bombshell, did you check if Leeds won on your day of birth?
It was Good Friday. They went to Parkside in the big local derby, and they won by 4 points to 2 in one of the most exciting games probably ever recorded, thanks to 2 penalty goals from the great Lewis Jones.
4-2. Look at that. Another 64 years of this.
Birthday by the Beatles.
Birthday
it's
by
coming
the Beatles.
up on the Rugby League.
RugbyLeague.com
channel. As soon as we finish.
As soon as I press this button, then the Beatles will magically appear. Unless you're watching on YouTube, and then it'll probably be another video of us working on. But thanks for watching. See you next week. Like, share, subscribe, press the bell for notifications, leave us a review, and all the other things the annoying people on YouTube